It's time for the Fort Mill Magazine podcast.
It's September 12th, 2012. I'm Tracy Roman.
I'm Emily Wyatt. How are you, Tracy?
I'm good. It's been kind of hairy-carry this week.
It's been a little rough.
Yeah, wrapping up the fall issue.
Yep.
We've
went to the printer yesterday.
Yes. And that's always fun. We always like our road trips to Columbia.
Yeah.
We got to go to the museum there.
I had like 5th grade flashbacks.
Yeah. I guess that would be a common field trip place.
Yeah.
It did feel like a field trip for us.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Got us out of the house.
Yep. Got to see some
good.
art.
Mm.
And what were some of the other things that we got to see?
Oh,
Big whale.
There's 4 levels.
Right.
We saw the history level, which is the 4th, and then we went down to science and technology.
Mm-hmm. There was a communication section, I remember.
Yeah, and then natural sciences, and it was a megalodon. It wasn't a whale, it was a shark. Giant megalodon.
That was a shark?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a whale.
No, it's a ancient shark that's like much bigger than a great white.
Oh my gosh, it was huge.
There is a sign beside it.
Yeah, I didn't
that
read the sign.
it.
I was too busy looking up at it.
Yeah, that's why I said it was on Shark Week, because it's a shark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a nice museum there.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good one.
And so you remember going there in elementary school?
Oh, yeah. I think it was a multiple time thing that we went throughout grade school. Mm-hmm. It was like one of those, we'll just go to the museum today. Like, right. At least twice I had been there before. And I remember all the especially the history things, because we used to be scared of the wax figures.
Yeah.
Because they kind of look like they're just going to, like, wake up.
Yeah, I remember some kind of, was it World War II thing where they were...
In the submarine? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked a little creepy.
Remember. I don't remember what war it was, but they were in a submarine.
Yeah.
It was a little weird.
A little creepy.
Yeah.
But it was good. Forgot what I was going to say. It's really a nice museum. And, the Titanic exhibit is there just through the weekend.
Yeah, so if you want to go see the Titanic, go. I meant to ask him, there was a Titanic exhibit at Carowinds a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, and I went and saw it, and I was wondering if it was the same stuff.
Huh. That seems kind of unusual that they would have...
It was like right after Titanic came out. I think it was there.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping that we can go back. I would like to see it this weekend.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I loved that movie. I don't know how much of it was true, but...
Most of it.
I believe it all.
Minus the giant diamond.
No, I thought that was real too.
Rose and Jack weren't real people.
In fact, I asked him, the guy that gave us the tour.
Yeah.
Paul Matheny, our friend.
If the diamond was there.
Yeah.
They had the diamond in...
The big blue rock.
Yeah, they don't.
Do you have it on display? He gave me a weird look. He gave me that look like, you don't really believe that's how the story was. Yeah, actually I do.
You know that's not really what happened, right?
Right. It's all good.
Oh, James Cameron. Ruining history for the best of us.
I know. Spoiler. Well, we have Jennifer Penny, Master Jennifer Penny from Champion Taekwondo.
Yes.
Coming in to talk to us.
Her name is not Penny. It is Jennifer Penny. Penny is her last name.
Penny is her last name. So don't you call her Penny.
She does not like it.
She doesn't like it. Yeah. We just call her Master Jen.
That sounds pretty awesome. Master Jen.
I know. I want to be called Master.
I will not do that for you.
No. That's a different story, a different time. Well, who do we have sponsoring us today?
Our sponsor today is Big View.
Oh.
They are located at 166 837 Lancaster Highway.
Yummy.
Their phone number is 704-544-0313. You know, I go there with my mom sometimes for like a brunch, and I always get there. I think it's called the Farmer Tom omelet. It's got like broccoli and spinach and other vegetables that I can't name at the moment, but it's delicious.
I love Big View. I love to go in and stare at the bakery items. I mean, come on, that is impressive. Have you seen the bakery items?
And hope that you can taste them through osmosis.
Well, and I think that they've got some kind of special system. You know how when you first walk in, you're like in a little entryway, a little enclosed entryway, and then you have to go through another double door to get into the actual restaurant. Right. Well, I swear every time you walk into that first little vestibule, that it smells like you were in the bakery shop. I mean, it's got like
they have
wonderful...
a vent right beside the oven wherever they bake stuff, and it just goes right into that room.
Oh my gosh. Every time you open that door, it's like, vanilla cake or something is baking, you know? I'm like, they've got like some kind of trick or something to really get you salivating for the bakery items.
Yeah, it's not really fair for the dieters.
No, like us.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Big View Diner's awesome, so we thank them for sponsoring this here podcast.
Indeed. And so we'll just get right to it.
So how are you?
I'm great.
We're so glad you're here.
I am glad to be here.
This is going to be lots of fun. We're going to get down deep into, like, who is Master Jen?
Oh.
You're intimidated, aren't you? We got her running scared.
No,
we can't let your students know that. You have to be intimidating for them, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, and it's a hard balance. I mean, I don't want to be, it's kind of like a parent. You know, you want to know, I want them to know that I care, but I still got to have that authority.
Right. You could kick their butt.
Adults too, everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. So maybe you could show us some moves later.
Sounds good.
We'll clear the floor space and get busy. So, you have been teaching Taekwondo in Baxter since 2010, correct?
Correct. April is when I opened.
Okay, April 2010. Tell us before then, like, what did you do before you opened up the studio?
Well, I started practicing Taekwondo. Man, I was thinking about how long it's been. It's been about 17 years now, and
that's a long time.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I just started out practicing for my own benefit, and just through that realized how much I enjoyed it. And I started teaching, and then started working at the studio where I was practicing, and then made it my career. I worked at a couple different studios, and before I opened in Baxter, I was working for a fellow over in Ballantyne, and it was such a great gig that I had over there. He's a great guy, and I was just enjoying myself practicing, and just working part-time. I was managing his studio. And I was practicing jiu-jitsu and just developing my personal skill. And then decided it was not a long-term plan to open the studio there. My husband, he's in IT, and his department was eliminated. And then he was doing some contract work, and it wasn't working out. And this happened to be the skill that I had, so we decided to put it all out there, and so I started looking at different places to open. And I knew about Baxter, but I didn't really know how cool Baxter was.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I knew a couple people that lived over there, and actually people that traveled from Baxter to train with the guy in Ballantyne where I was working. And so my husband and I rode over to check it out. We had been looking at places over more close to Ballantyne or Waxhaw. I wanted to stay on this side of town, but no, and I just rode over there to check it out. Somebody said that there was a space available. Man, I knew right from that first visit that was where I wanted to be.
That's a great space, right there on the corner.
Absolutely.
That's Market Street and what's that other street? Is that Academy? No, what is that?
We can never remember the name of that street.
Because I don't even know.
Isn't that funny? Because it's just a little side street.
No, that one, the one that runs between Beef O'Brady's and McAllister's right there between me and the dance school. I don't even know the name of it.
Yeah.
It's the one road.
It's,
you know,
it's
that
Assembly.
one.
No, it's not Assembly. That's...
I don't
Maybe
know.
it is Assembly.
Is it?
Maybe it is. We'll say it is.
Anyway, okay.
It's the
Assembly?
first
It's the
intersection.
intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
when you
just pay
go
attention to
in,
Market.
yeah, when you go in Market Street, it's that first intersection, and you're on the left.
Right. Because, it just goes back into a parking lot, so it doesn't necessarily... If you go the other direction, it goes somewhere.
Right.
Back into
Goes
the
back to that other
neighborhood.
light.
Right. And into the... It goes to the library.
Yes.
The circle.
And the loop.
Yeah, the circle in front of the library.
Right.
But we looked at a few different spaces there, and just, I don't know what it was, just that had good mojo.
Good mojo. That's important.
Yeah. And the, I like the family vibe of Baxter. That's a good fit for me as an instructor, and just my personality, being, a mom myself, parent, and the way I teach, I knew it would be a good fit.
Right.
Because I like teaching adults and children, and pretty much every age, but I like teaching families of people. And I knew that that would be a good area to get I have whole families that practice.
Right. And most of the people that come there, do they live in Baxter?
My majority absolutely is from Baxter, but I have people that come from just across like Steel Creek area in North Carolina, or Rock Hill,
Right.
TKK. Quite a few people from TKK.
A lot of people like to hang out in Baxter. I like to hang out in Baxter.
Me too.
I like to hang out at your studio.
Okay.
It's often, right? Like once a week where Louis and I are sitting there on the benches. Him not sitting so much, but I like to sit and watch them kick.
Yeah.
I like to watch the adults. Kids are fun to watch too, but
I think
I like to watch the
comes in to
adults
watch the
sweat.
kids, and I think you like to watch the adults. Yeah.
yeah, I like to watch the other women. I sit there. I don't do it, but I sit there and I'm like,
Wait, how do
I
you
could
feel
probably
about that?
do
Do you
that.
feel like you could do it from watching what we do? Because that's a big thing for me. I was on a competition demo team, and we would travel around and put on all these flashy, it's like stunt style stuff.
like exhibition stuff.
Right. And that stuff is really cool. I get the value of being able to know how to do some of that stuff. But in real life, that stuff's really not all that practical. People like to learn it, especially older children and teenagers. Being able to do that kind of stuff is a lot of wow factor. And I love teaching it. I think it's really cool. But when it comes down to somebody being able to identify with it and say, well, I could do that. When I've got a 15-year-old that can, do a 540-degree tornado kick, that's awesome. That's really, it is. It's awesome. But that's just not practical for most people.
Right.
And I want it to be achievable. And so if you sit there and you watch and you think, okay, I could get on with that group. I could do that stuff. That's really good. That's good for me to hear.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it's reality.
I would love to give it a try. I've always wanted to try something like that. Because I work out almost every morning, and it gets very tedious.
Well, you have to have something that's part of the reason that I've stuck with it so long. I started just as something to work out.
Right.
I wanted to get in shape, and I had been interested in martial arts, but I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't something I had been thinking about for a long time. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. I know now thinking back what you kind of planted the seeds for it, but it wasn't something I thought out that much. It was just, well, this looks cool, and I got to do something because I was not in good shape at all. And the fact that it engages you, you can't just go in there and tune out when you're doing it.
Right.
You have to think about what you're doing. And it was always something new to learn. There was always a next kind of step.
Yeah.
I need that carrot to
Yeah.
keep me coming
Yeah.
back. But that's just, that's how a lot of people are. And it's achievement based. And I felt, once I started getting it, it was hard at first. It's hard for a lot of adults because it's stuff that you feel like, well, I can move my arms at the same time. I can walk around and do, or maybe you're, an athlete and you are really skilled at another sport, but this is really different.
Yeah.
You have to be able to move your body in ways that you're not accustomed to at all. And for adults, that's pretty difficult to not be able to physically do something. But for me, for a lot of people, it's challenging. And you have to have the personality to be really open to messing up sometimes.
Yeah.
But then if you stick with it, it's, there's the value. It was difficult. And so you start to feel that sense of, well, now I'm really starting to feel like I can do something that I couldn't do. Not just, I can go in there and run on a treadmill. That's great for a lot of people, but that's what kind of stuck me.
Yeah.
It got me stuck to it because
it's kind of monotonous to do stuff like that.
Right.
Monotony is not my thing.
No, and I feel like when I work out, I work out obviously to get in better shape. So that's the only thing I have driving me. So if I had something else like, I really want to get this kick down, or I really want to be able to do this, this, and this, that's a goal. And then the getting in shape is kind of a secondary at that point.
That's exactly how it works.
Yeah. I think that would be helpful.
Well, we featured Jen back in spring of 2011, and we had a before picture. Do you remember, what year that was taken? And you were not in...
You got it sitting there. Can I look and see which picture it is, just so I can remember? Okay, there's McCree right there, if you believe that. That's whose hand I'm holding. She's out of the shot. So she was... I don't know. She looks maybe just around a year. So this had to have been around 97.
Right. And I think you told me that was the heaviest that you were. This was before you had taken up Taekwondo, right?
I was kind of stuck right here. I had dieted a lot my whole life, honestly. I've been on a diet as long as I can remember. But that was kind of the peak of me. I knew I had to change what I was doing. And I was around my head. I had been heavier than that. But I had started Taekwondo at that point. But I had been doing it very long. And I realized, or I didn't realize actually for a while after that, it's so much more than just watching what you eat or watching or going and doing that workout. There has to be the shift that it's like a bigger reason to do it, like you said, than just checking off the miles or and it was because I had my daughter and I had always struggled. And it was something that I was kind of desperate to change that. I wanted to represent somebody that was, that could be more in control of my emotions because that was what was driving my inability to control my weight.
Right.
And I was just, I was out of control.
Well, don't you think, too, that that's what makes martial arts a good exercise because... one of the things that is mentioned on your website, I think, is that it's mental and physical fitness. So talk about how the mental aspect comes into play in martial arts.
It's so layered. For me at that point, looking back to that, I had a very small perception of martial arts as a whole, but it didn't really matter. I still started to feel the effect of it. And now looking back, nearly 20 years later, my perception is really different. It's not as broad as it will be eventually, but it's much broader than the picture of it I had then. But my peers, the people that would teach me, they were always men, and they'd always been doing it their whole life. And so putting myself in that role or seeing myself in the role where I am now was really a stretch. And then when I got to a point where I felt like, well, I liked it enough I knew I wasn't ever going to stop doing it. And then to be able to get up in front of the class and teach or, express my experience in a way that benefited them, I realized that was, it was a skill that I had, and I really loved it. And at that point, it just kind of stopped mattering. I didn't feel like I had to prove something against somebody else. And I really, now that I've gotten some experience with it, I realize that I have a unique perspective on it, because a lot of those people that started when they were children, they don't necessarily remember learning stuff. And although they are very skilled, being able to think back, because I was, a young adult when I started, I remember the awkwardness. I remember feeling like, I should be able to do this. Why is this so difficult?
Right.
It's not, moving both arms at the same time is not that hard. But when you got to make them go a certain place in different directions, and there's just a lot going on in your body to make the martial arts stuff happen, but in your mind too. For a lot of people that teach, it's just really natural, and it's kind of just what they've always done. But because, I remember learning that stuff, and I remember how it was presented to me. I remember it's not just something that I've always known how to do. Mm-hmm. And so it gives me both sides of it, I think.
And once again, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Big View. They are located at 16637 Lancaster Highway. Their phone number is 704-544-0313, and their website is www.bigviewdiner.com. And now back to the show. So how has that affected your teaching? If you remember having to learn it, how does that affect teaching, especially other adults?
I think I really like teaching adults, and a lot of times my peers really focus on children, which, kids in martial arts is huge. Mm-hmm. The martial arts industry has grown so much, over the last 20, 30 years, but especially the last 10 years. Once it became an Olympic sport, Taekwondo has really taken off, which is great for my field. But I really like the adult student because I identify with them so much, I think. And I know, I think having learned it and struggled with it the way that I did, because I'm not a natural athlete. I was very overweight when I started. It didn't come from I walked in and I was already either a kid who was really free with your body, mm-hmm. And didn't have a lot of the hang-ups that adults or young adults have, about being self-conscious, about not knowing how to do stuff. The kids, they just do whatever. They just follow along and they get it. And that's how they learn. They learn by playing.
Right.
And adults learn the same way, but we just mentally aren't as ready to do that as kids are. And so I like to engage adults in a way that makes them feel comfortable, but that, they don't really realize what they're doing is learning. And
right.
so disguising them a little bit is...
They're being tricked.
Yeah, I'm hiding the vegetables and the fun stuff. But making it to where it's not like, it's okay to come in and it be really traditional. And I think adults want to come in and they want to work hard. They already have in their mind that martial arts isn't just something easy. They know that
right.
it's, they expect it to be kind of a not exceptionally difficult, but they don't expect it to just walk in and be like a mindless workout. They know they're going to be learning something. They know that it's going to be kind of challenging mentally and physically. And I like that. I like delivering that, but also like it to be in a way that you can feel comfortable and not awkward about it. Mm-hmm. And I think experiencing that myself, either I did feel awkward and I want to find a way for it not to necessarily be, but sometimes just presenting something in a whole lot of different ways. We do the same thing over and over. And I teach it the same way somebody that's been doing it their whole life teaches it. But I think just having that perspective on it, just being able to have the empathy of somebody that's been there.
Right.
It just gives me a unique perspective. My perspective is different than theirs. And so it shifts the way that I present things.
Yeah.
Well, it must be pretty attractive to other adult women to come and to join your class, knowing that you know, came to it later in life and that you manage it. It's kind of like a motivator, like I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the funny thing, because a lot of people don't know that about me.
Right.
They just assume that I'm like one of those other people that have just, they're
They know now.
surprised to find out that I didn't start as a child.
Right.
And, I mean, that's just, it's just more the norm. But when they do, I don't really talk about it, and people look at me now and being able to do what I can physically and I just really like to represent a lifestyle. It's important to me to model what my expectation is. Mm-hmm. And so they look at me and see a fit person.
Right.
And which is exactly what I want to present, but they don't necessarily see where it came from. Mm-hmm. And I don't really broadcast it. Mm-hmm. And when people find out, I think a lot of times it may be surprising. But for people to be able to, or for, like you say, for another woman to be able to say, well, you know what, if she could get there, I can get there too. That's really valuable to me. Right. I mean, I really, it makes it really personal and worthwhile to help somebody get, because it's helped me. I mean, martial arts has, it's changed the way I view myself in a positive way. And not that everybody necessarily needs that, but there are a lot of people that do.
Oh, yeah.
And, to be able to take all the negative perception I had of myself, and, I mean, I still struggle with it. I think we all do. But to be able to give somebody that, it just is a good feeling. You just you feel good about what you accomplish. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
And do you still go and train outside of your studio? Do you have a master teacher that you go to?
I don't necessarily go and practice at a certain place. But once you get to a level of practice or teaching, I look for mentors now. Mm-hmm. And I train. I think it's important to train as much as I did when I was first learning. I still practice all the time. I practice the same stuff that I practiced in class with new people. And I also challenge myself to new things. I think it's really important, not just in martial arts, but there's so many different things I can pursue in martial arts, whether it's picking up a new weapon I don't really know how to work, or trying some kind of new pattern that is going to stretch me a little bit. It's important to be a beginner at something. I don't care what your field is. Mm-hmm. Feeling like we know about stuff and we've got it wrapped up is, I think that's kind of negative. Mm-hmm. And being able to put yourself out there and just be a beginner at something is, I think you have to push yourself to do that. And so I'm always trying to find something new, some new way to challenge myself. And I do practice different kinds of martial arts. I go to different seminars, whether it's, I used to go to more kind of business stuff, but now I feel like I'm in a really good place with that. I'm really happy with the way that I do with my business model. Mm-hmm. And although I'm always looking for new ideas, I'm not really closed to that at all. But that was something that I was seeking for a long time. I wanted to learn and to decide how I wanted to do things. And now I feel really comfortable with that. And so I've shifted back into more of a personal development just with my martial arts skill.
Right. And I think that's important. It doesn't matter how old or what you're in, whatever your, exercise or passion in life or whatever it is, if you're constantly fine-tuning, yourself and learning new things. We always have things to learn,
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I think is important, is to still be a student. I'm still just as much a student of martial arts as I was the first day.
Right.
I don't look at myself as, well, now I'm the master, I'm the teacher. I am those things, but I'm just as much a student as I was.
Right.
And once you lose that, once you let go of that learning process, I think you just stay there. And I'm always trying to push for that next level.
Right.
That's very martial arts, but it's just personal achievement. I mean, it translates to everything. If you're that, if you're that type of person, it can, any kind of sport and athletics or, just professional life too. Mm-hmm. It's important.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I like is y'all get to wear like really cute outfits. And they're very flattering. I mean, like if I were to think about like taking a ballet class or something and having to put on a leotard, not happening. That would discourage me right away. But to be able to put on this dobok, that's what you call them, right?
Right.
It's a dobok.
Dobok.
They're very cute. And they're not like clingy,
No, it is pretty forgiving.
So that's always a good thing, especially if you have weight to lose, like myself.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to like put on some skin tight thing and then work out in a studio where people can see me from the road.
Right.
Scare people away.
It is. I mean, when I first started, I was very self-conscious just about my physical appearance and my physical ability, and the fact that we all wore the same thing. It just took it out of the equation.
Right.
And it wasn't, like you say, a leotard. It
Right.
wasn't spandex. And, it was, I think that definitely it helped.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine that would be, we tend to think that would just be a female hang up, but I can imagine that men would also feel that way, and maybe even kids, feel intimidated about what they're wearing when they're doing this kind of activity.
I think a lot of times for kids and for men too, I think they think about it less than women do, but a lot of it is comfort. If you're doing something where you have a lot of heavy equipment on, or you have stuff that makes you really hot, or the uniform that has long sleeves versus the t-shirt, most people like the t-shirt. It's a comfort factor,
Right.
and being able to move around. And I don't like wearing t-shirts when I work out, or when I do taekwondo practice. I do when I exercise in general, but the traditional long sleeve uniform, it's just something about putting it on, and it kind of signals my mind that it's time to work, whether it's practice or work or teaching.
Right.
And so after wearing it this long, it's like a symbol for me. Mm-hmm. And I think it gets that way for a lot of people. It's a specific uniform that just kind of switches your mental focus.
Right. Well, and the whole thing with the colored belts too, representing the levels of achievement. Like, what is the typical time frame? I know it's probably different for everyone, but what is the time frame that a student would go from? Is it start with a white belt? Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You go from a white belt to the highest level, which is the black belt, correct?
That's right. Well, there are different levels of black belt. The general time frame, usually, that's
a tough question.
No, well, it's really an easy question. But I've after having kind of changed my curriculum. I didn't change the curriculum, but the presentation of how I do things over the last few years. Mm-hmm. Now that it's my choice, and a lot of times you'll find that it's time-based rather than knowledge-based in some studios. And I really wanted to shift away from that. When I first started, I had published the amount of time as minimum time between belts. Mm-hmm. And usually if you're coming regularly, which when I say, regularly, I mean to usually 3 times a week, every week, week after week, and a consistent practice, then you could get from beginner to the first level of black belt in about 3 to 4 years, depending on how focused your practice is.
Right.
That's minimum. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times people will look at that and they say, okay, well, in X amount of months, I'll be this. And that's not at all what I want to present. It's really a personal, go at your own pace kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And whether you want the pace to be quicker or not, sometimes it is a little... you just got to get certain things before you move to the next level.
Right.
And I'm just not comfortable moving people to the next level until they get, certain aspects of the curriculum. And if it takes 6 months when the minimum time frame is 2 months for that belt, then that's what it takes. I want to attach a time necessarily to it. So that's a struggle. People ask me, how long does it take? Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, you can do it in this, but I don't, you can't look at that as a personal challenge. Well, this is the fastest you can, so this is what I'm going to go for.
Right.
That's
kind of missing the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I took the time frames away. Now, there are minimum times for every belt. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how much you come to class, you still have to wait X amount of time before you can promote to the next level. And there's minimum times for black belt. Mm-hmm. The different levels, and that's all set by below black belt. I have some leeway. I can set what I want it to be. I can set the color of belt. I've seen all kind of crazy belts. I can order camouflage belts and pink ones, and with different striping, and there's all different ways to do it. But I stick with a pretty traditional system. Mm-hmm. There are 9 belts from beginner to black, and then there are 9 black belts. Mm-hmm. And the black belts are regulated by the organization that I'm affiliated with, the Kukiwon, and that's in Seoul, Korea. And there are minimum promotion times for that, and that's not up to me, but
right,
and I follow their guidelines. But as far as the, if it takes, it just takes what it takes, and it's really brought up, I think, the level of the technique in the studio to where I would like it to be. Once I stopped. I just took it off of all the printed material that I had. And if somebody asks me, I don't mind telling you what the minimum is, but I don't really want people to have that preconceived kind of time perception in their mind.
Right.
And things...
Because then they judge themselves.
Well. Right, exactly. And whether you're, it's like it automatically puts a judgment on it or a measurement. And it's just, I don't necessarily want it to be measured by time. I want it to be measured by skill.
Right.
That's really, that's important.
And you said that you have a black belt testing coming up. So how often does that happen?
Well, typically, since this is a pretty new studio, we've been open, this next spring will be 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so, at the very minimum, I would have people that started the very first day that would be ready around, that benchmark next spring. And there will be, I'm really looking at doing the first big black belt test probably next fall. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to necessarily, say that that's when we'll be ready, but that's what I imagine that it'll end up being. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, I'll have, what I've worked with in the past, you have a few black belt tests every year, and everybody that's above the color belt level would do either a pre-test or a full rank test at that time. And I just want it to be, we had one already, but they were people that had trained at another school.
Right.
And not that I want to take away from that, it was a great event, but it was just a few people, and they had been practicing long enough we needed to do a test for them. They were ready to move up. And so we had one last year, and which was really cool. I was able to do some of the things that I've wanted to do, that not being the decision maker in the whole process. I've seen a lot of different ways that it was presented, and so I was able to take my ideas from different places that I've practiced or worked, or different people that I've tested under, and made my own test, and I thought it went really well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm already thinking and planning the one for
next year.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Right.
And I want it to be. There's a whole process to it. There's an 8-week preparatory phase leading up to it, where you go through and review all the material. Once you test for black belt, you're responsible for the whole curriculum, not just your level stuff.
Right.
So you test all the way from what you learned at white belt all the way through to black belt, because each belt, each of the 9 levels, has its own specific curriculum. So I spent a lot of time reviewing, but not just those 8 weeks. Right now I'm thinking about the people that are getting, about a year out from that level. I'm trying to, start that review process now, so they're not waiting. And then we do, that's part of it. We do a retreat where I take the candidates to the beach or to the mountains, somewhere like that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, we do some teamwork stuff. And
that's prior to?
Right.
The test?
Right.
Okay.
We did that the last time, and it was just really, it's so rewarding to see it. Even though, these people didn't necessarily start with me, they had been with me for, 2 years, and to see them achieve something that they've been working on so long, and for me to be able to, to influence their journey with it, it was really rewarding. And the retreat, I think, is, I want it to be something that is not like secret or, but I want people to anticipate it. Like, I get to go on my black belt retreat, and for it to be a time when the candidates, because they've been working so hard for years at that point together, to really come together and kind of reflect on different aspects of what they've done. And we trained too. We got up and we were on the beach at sunrise, and I got some wonderful pictures of everybody first thing in the morning as the sun came up over the ocean doing their forms, and being able to just kind of take a minute and reflect, I think, is the point of doing the retreat. And so I guide that, but it's just really, the stuff that people come out with at those kind of events, you might not know somebody's full story. And then when you sit down and they really get a chance to share in a more personal way, not just in class, you really get to know them, a little more off the mat. And, and then when it comes down to the actual test day, it's a very physical event. It's, and I want it to stretch people. That's my point, is that it's going to stretch you physically and mentally. And it should be hard. It should be, it's the culmination of a lot of practice. And people put a lot of pressure on themselves about it, but I put a lot of pressure on them too. I mean, if you go into it thinking, I got this, and I'm, and you're not nervous at all, then I haven't done my job.
Right.
I want, and not to intimidate, but that's part of the value in it is the struggle, and it not just being a given or being easy. It's an honor to achieve a black belt, and it's just a lot of perseverance and years of hard work, and just it can be really emotional for people too. For me,
I can imagine.
We had a candlelight ceremony, and I was trying to talk, and I was crying.
That's wonderful. Well, it's certainly been an honor having you with us today. We want to tell our listeners again that you are with Champion Taekwondo in Baxter, and that is at 951 Market Street.
That's right. And
do you want to tell everybody what your web address is in case they want to find out more?
Sure. If you look for us on the web, it's championtkdbaxter.com.
Wonderful.
And we're on Facebook too, Champion Taekwondo Baxter.
Yeah, you have. I get news feeds from your fans. They always are communicating back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I'm always getting like these little notifications. This one said that and that one, and they're always very positive and encouraging. Yeah,
well, that's great. The kind of atmosphere that it's very important to me that it be that kind of atmosphere. I don't do negative. Negative is going to come at you, but keeping things positive is big for me.
And you do have a pretty open door policy. People can just walk in and watch. And
I encourage it.
Yeah, it's great. Mm-hmm. I know I like to go and watch.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Again, we'd like to thank Big View Diner for sponsoring today's podcast.
They are located at 16637 Lancaster Highway. Their phone number is 704-544-0313, and their website is www.bigviewdiner.com.
Yes, and that's a great place to go and get lots of yummy yummies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for today.
Yep.
Follow us on Facebook
at Fort Mill Mag
and Twitter
at Fort Mill Mag.
And, of course, keep on listening to our podcast. It comes out every week.
Every Wednesday.
And until next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.